All right, I think we are live. Hopefully. Let me double check here. All right, perfect. Okay. For any of you that know me, I'm Justin. You can watch me and my videos on YouTube at US Minuteman if you are interested in guns, gun rights, or anything like that. I did a lot of those videos. Um, not as of late, I've just been talking about just kind of general stuff, not just gun stuff. Mostly for don't want to beat my channel with just one singular topic. I just want to talk about the important issues, or just talk about fun stuff too. Maybe I'll talk about video games someday. Play some video games maybe on my channel. Who knows? Um, I did one of these uh, podcasts, I guess you could say, a little over a month ago with my brother. We just talked about a few things. I decided to come back and just spontaneously get on and start talking and see, what comes out. Really, I really have no plan for this particular podcast. Um, so, I have a couple things on my mind that I want to talk about, but nothing in specific. Um, so this is really just me rambling. So if you don't want to hear me ramble, then don't watch. Um, Mostly, I want to get this out of the way. Talk about the elections. I mean, everyone's got to talk about the elections. I'm not going to go too hardcore into it. Just kind of my feelings on it. Um, I have watched two of the debates. I haven't watched the third one yet. I intend to. Um, here, here's kind of my view on it. I think we made mistakes getting these two as our candidates. Um, so it kind of sucks that we're stuck with them. Unfortunately, we are. So it's kind of like, again, like I feel like we've had in the past, where pick the lesser of two evils, which I'm kind of tired of doing. I've only voted in the last four elections. I don't know. Um, so three or four elections. That's just my age. Um, but I think it's one of those things where we keep doing this over and over because Republicans and Democrats are so popular, so they're so famous, and you know everyone's got to pick a side, and it's getting ridiculous. So before I get too much into this, I grew up more conservative. Um, Made the choice not to be Republican when I signed up to vote, mostly because at the time I didn't know what I was. Although I grew up with more conservative values, I didn't agree with everything conservative. Um, so I became an independent, so to speak, which kind of bums me out because I can't do primary votes. I know I've heard talk that they were going to change that or something. I don't know. I didn't really look into it, but so I guess I'm I guess an independent, but um, yeah. So I grew up conservative, and then start going back and forth with all these things. I tended to vote conservatively. Um, this one, I don't think I will vote Republican. Um, I can't vote Democrat because both of them are bad for this country, in my opinion. Now, take that for what you will. It's just a bad image. On one side you have somebody who is very powerful in business, and gets his way in business. He knows what he wants. He's the boss. He runs it that way. And in business, great, that works. Okay, very offensive. Um, things come out about him. And women, that I'm not going to go too deep into that. Um, I intend to do maybe a video on it because from my understanding, it's mostly just talk with him. Although there are people who are coming out that he did sexually assault people. But I listened to that video that was big on him, and that came out recently. I think a week or two ago, maybe 2 weeks ago or something like that, about him grabbing someone, and it was it was talk. It wasn't him admitting to that he did it. It was him saying, "I could get away with it." Not that that's much better, but it's him talking. So very offensive, and it's just a bad image for our country if we vote him in. Um, so yeah, I don't think he's there. I don't know why he's the Republicans' hero right now. And then on the other hand, Hillary, the criminal, so to speak, the person who I believe anyway is a criminal and should has so much stuff against her that I don't see why there isn't a lawsuit, why there isn't uh, some form of somebody going after her for all these things, because there's enough emails that came out and were all just leaked, and it's ridiculous that because you have a name like Clinton that you can get away with it. And that bugs me really badly. I think if you have enough information against you, you should be prosecuted. And then there's the whole, and I'm not going to go so far as, there was a lot of people that did die that were gonna testify against her. I guess it was like 3 people, which, to be honest, 3 people is a little suspicious. Just gonna say, I'm not gonna go too conspiracy theorist, because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I am increasingly distrusting the government as I get older. So, but it's kind of, we got a joke. I mean, who would be the best option on both sides? Republicans should have had Rand Paul up there. That's who I was voting for. Democrats should have had Bernie. That would have been the best. That would have been, we're choosing the better of the two, not the lesser of two evils. The best of the best would have been those two, in my opinion. But, whether you want to say, Trump got more, time in front of the camera and became more popular, whatever, with, deep conservatives, or Hillary, rigged the primaries or whatever. And I don't know if she did or not. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past her, but I have no idea. I've heard that there was some, evidence that she did, which, again, if there's evidence, why is she still there? So who knows? Maybe there's not as much evidence. I didn't look into it too much. But you look at both these people and they have the track records that are just like, oh my God, really? I don't trust either one of them. I think they're both bad for this country. And I just don't understand why. So as far as, who I'm voting for, to be honest, I don't know. I think Trump, like I said, he's very offensive, and a lot of things he does is just a very bad image for our country if we vote him in. Hillary is a crook. Everybody knows it. Yet they still support her like she's their savior, and that bugs me to death. It's sad that we are doing that. And I get the people who are like, well, if I don't vote for Hillary, Trump's going to win. Well, I don't want to vote that way. I may, if it comes down to a battleground state, and I live in Colorado. Last I checked, it was somewhat about a battleground state, tipping towards Hillary. Enough where I don't think Trump could take Colorado. Last I checked, anyway. I haven't checked in like a couple weeks, so If it was more in the middle where my vote, I feel like would actually do something either way, I'd vote for one of them because, to be honest, yes, they're one of them is going to win, unfortunately, but that's also the mentality that gets them there. Oh, well, third party, for example, they'll never win, so I'm not going to vote for them. I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils of the two main parties. Well, that's the thinking that gets these people into their candidacies. And, um, these people who uh, we don't want as president. I don't know why we have decided that these are our options. So here's what I'm going to say. Vote for who you want. Vote for who you really believe in. Um, necessarily for a party. I don't think you should vote for a party anymore because I think both parties have gone so far out from democracy that it's their way or the highway. I mean, it goes both ways. Republicans don't want to help Democrats who are in office. You look at Obama; he was blocked with everything. So managed to get health care through, even though it's not exactly the best thing in the world. And I won't go into that. That maybe another video. But um, and then Democrats will do the same thing. If Trump wins, they'll block everything that he does. Because we both know that if Trump wins the presidency, people are definitely going to be voting for a Democratic Senate or House. I mean, that's going to happen. To try to tip that balance. And to be honest, that's a good thing in my opinion, because I think if one party controls everything, it's too much power, especially when each party has their own agendas these days. So it's one of those things where there needs to be balance. So there's that. So regarding who I want to vote for, I want to vote third party. There's a high chance I'm going to vote third party. Why? Yes, people will say they don't win. Right now, they won't win. But I want this election to be used as a what are we doing? Where are we going? This was a mistake. So I intend to vote probably Libertarian with Johnson, probably maybe Green with Stein. Who knows? I tend to probably lean a little bit more Libertarian, but um, I think that that's who I click with the most out of the candidates that are there. Now, people may ask, like I said, people may ask, well, why are you going to vote for them? They're not going to win. Well, yeah, they're not going to win right now, but my vote towards them builds that party. The more votes each year that third parties get, it's going to build their up, and they get stronger every year, and they have more voice. And especially in an election like this, where the two main candidates are hated on either side, it's going to make it start looking like, okay, right wing, left wing, oh my gosh, they're so extreme. Oh my God, I can't decide who to vote. Let's look towards the middle, towards compromise, so to speak. And that's going to start looking better and better each year because it's getting ridiculous. So here's what I would say to anybody out there who is undecided, who doesn't like Trump because of the way he is, doesn't like Hillary because of what she's done, and you don't want to vote for either one of them, vote third party. Vote third party and build up that third party for the coming elections in the future so we can get something else in there. If you're tired of Republicans doing what they do, of Democrats doing what they do, and you want something else, vote third party. That's my advice. Yes, they're not going to win, but let's start showing the Democrats and the Republicans that we're tired of it. We're tired, you know. And if I lived in such a battleground state to the point where my vote would actually make a difference, and I don't know what Colorado is going to be. I'm going to check, before the election day, and see where my vote or how much weight my vote carries, and then I can understand voting for one or the other, because then short term, that may actually make a difference in between Trump and Hillary, depending on what you support. But if you don't support either one of these, and you don't live in a battleground state, vote third party and build that party up. Let's do it. I think it's something that is something we really need to do. We need to do something, because it's too late for this election, but we need to start showing the country that the people, this country is supposed to be about the people, and right now it's not. As much as they want to say it is, it's not. They're supposed to be working for us. Hillary's not going to work for us. Trump isn't going to work for us. It's not their nature. So that's my 2 cents on that. Now I'm not going to go into specific policies and theirs and all that good stuff, and draw your own conclusions. Vote for who you want to vote for, and you know what? If you vote for one of them because you truly believe in them, great. I am not going to judge you for it. Um, you know, uh, because I here's the thing: if you believe that Hillary did all those criminal things and you're okay with it, then I may have a little bit more of a problem, because that means you're allowing a criminal to become president. And if you actually believe that Trump molested a girl or raped a girl, if you actually believe it, believe that he did it, not talked offensively, and you vote for him in, then I will have a problem a little bit too. I may, I'm not gonna, attack you over it. But that's you allowing a rapist become president, as opposed to an offensive man who's talking, which I think that's the case at the moment. Uh, but who knows? He may have done those horrible things, and I haven't looked too deep into it. But from what I've heard so far, it was just talk. Um, but don't get me wrong, I don't like Trump. Okay, I think he is misogynistic. He's very man over woman, and he's been in that position for a long time, so he's always been the boss. So that's just where he comes from. Not saying it's right. Um, so don't take my words as I'm supporting Trump, because I don't support Trump. Okay. Um, Now let's see here. Kind of getting away from politics a little bit. I know I talked about it a little bit on the last time when I was talking with my brother here about the whole kneeling with the national anthem. I wanted to talk about it a little bit more, mostly because it's becoming a trend. And yes, I say a trend because I think it's misguided. I don't think that's the place to protest cops killing black people. I think that's because the flag to me represents our country as a whole. It represents our soldiers who bleed and die for our freedoms, and I think it's misguided. And I know they may not intend to, but I do believe it's disrespectful towards our soldiers. Towards our soldiers, I can speak, but it's it's tough because yeah, I don't know. It's sorry, I think I'm buffering here. Okay. Um, but yeah, I just think it's misguided, and now it's becoming a trend for all football players and all this stuff, and I don't think it's the place. I just don't. I think it's misguided now. I believe they have a belief, they have the right to protest that if that's what they want to do. I believe that there's a conversation to be had about, some cops who do jump the gun and profile and do all those things. Sure, that definitely happens, but I don't think it's as cut and dry as everyone likes to say. Um, all uh, cops do it, or every single white cop is out to get them, and it's just no. I don't believe in that. So, but there's a conversation to be had about it. I mean, you can look at all these statistics and whatnot, and how they say, the amount of white cops killing black people is so, statistically low compared to how else they die and whatnot, and it's, but there still is a conversation to be had. It definitely happens. So I'm not going to take that away and say that you shouldn't talk about it. You shouldn't, because it definitely happens. I think it's decreasing. I think it's probably at an all-time low. With our country, it just probably is, and that's what I believe. I know someone did statistics. Somebody I watch online did statistics, and it is at an all-time low from according to theirs. Now I have not fact checked him, so don't say that my facts are facts. This is just what I'm hearing. So yeah, it's one of those things that it's I believe that they have the right to protest. I just think that it's wrong time, wrong place, wrong way. If you want to protest police, the flag doesn't represent police, in my opinion. It resembles soldiers more so than anything, and our country as a whole. So I don't know. It's and I'm not going to go too much into that one. Like I said, I've touched on it previously, so I didn't want to go too much into it. Now, let's see here. I know I had another topic that I wanted to discuss a little bit. So let me see. Oh yeah, just our country. I just kind of wanted to touch on our country as a whole. So I mean, we've talked about um, we've talked about the presidential election and how much of a roller coaster that is. Talked a little bit about this. So I just kind of want to talk about our country as a whole. Where are we as a country? I watched a clip. People threw it around for a while. A clip of the newsroom, I believe is what it is. I've never actually watched it, but it's with Jeff Daniels. He plays I don't know if it's a news anchor or some political columnist or something. Um, they're on stage at I think at a university, and they're answering questions, and one girl asks them, what makes America the greatest country in the world or whatever, right? And one of them threw out, diversity and opportunity or something. One of them said freedom and freedom, which was like, really? Come on. And then Jeff Daniels kind of skirted the question for a while, and then he finally answered it and said, America is not the greatest country in the world. And people were shocked. Watching that scene, look it up on YouTube, or if you watch the newsroom, obviously, that would be good too. Because I think it was one of the best things I've ever seen. And he explained why. And he basically said, um, there are so many other countries that have freedom. And yes, and yes, and here's the thing: if you look at their freedom, yes, they do have freedom. It's not set in stone like ours is, like with a document as heavily as it is in the United States. But they do have freedom. Okay. Um, but it's not. Yeah, we don't. They don't have a stone cold constitution that guarantees their freedom as much as we do. But nevertheless, they do have freedom. So it's it's one of those things where they do really do have freedom. So you can't really compare, say that U.S. is the only country that has freedom. Um, and then he goes on to say about a few other things about why America isn't the greatest, and goes on to say, like, we lead the world in three categories. He said number of people incarcerated per capita, which is definitely true. Um, Number of people that believe angels are real, which I didn't know that was a statistic, but okay. Um, and then defense spending, which obviously we're the U.S. We have the biggest military in the world. Well, not the biggest per se. I guess I would say the most advanced. Um, uh, and then he goes on to say that which we spend more than like the next 28 countries combined, which I don't know. I didn't check that fact, but if that's true, that's pretty crazy. And he mentions that like 25 of those are allies. So why are we just spending this much? But yeah, education, sciences, all the healthcare, all this stuff was, we were pretty low on the totem pole with all that stuff. So interesting listening to that clip, and I was like, whoa, that's and like I said, I didn't do a fact check on it, but it's very believable. It's very believable that that is true. So it very well could be. It could be way off. Who knows? But I don't think it's way off. I think it's very much true. So, um, and looking at the state of our country, unemployment, our recession, we went through that hard time there, and still a hard time. But and healthcare, which I don't think it's the best thing in the world. I think there definitely was better before some adjustments that were made. And like I said, I'm not going to go into healthcare too much, but um, um, but the state at which we are coming, and it started for me with this. I guess you can call it entitlement, but this whole idea that, for example, I think it started in like little league sports and stuff like that. Everyone's a winner. Nobody loses, right? It's that's it's ridiculous because losing builds character. It teaches you a lesson. It teaches you how to cope with failure, with loss. Okay, if you got everything handed to you, no matter how hard you tried, and you still get the same reward that the people who did better, who worked harder at it, that teaches you nothing. And I think it started there. And now it just become this self-entitled country that we deserve everything for nothing. You know, it's 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 getting ridiculous. And there's all these terms out there for it: social justice warrior. You can talk about third wave feminism. You can talk about and people say millennials and stuff like that, but technically I'm a millennial, even though I don't feel like one. um I guess I fall in the age range of a millennial, but I feel like my views are a little bit more not millennial, but I understand millennial thought process. You're a dreamer, you go big, you make things happen, you take the path of least resistance to success, and if it works, great. um but some of this entitlement where they deserve everything, they deserve to be taken care of, and not not getting, or not having the ability to understand what losing feels like, or not getting your way breeds that. And then you get into universities where you get into like psych classes, or you know some sort of social studies or something, you know, um, that kind of they kind of breed it more. They're just like, oh, you deserve this. You are this. You are a victim. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Is what it is. But I mean, and I definitely have my own thoughts on all these things. Social justice warriors, I think, are just it's very cringing to watch these people, with political correctness. For example, for those of you who don't know, if you're watching this, um, I'm Native American, right? So you'd think there are racial slurs or something that could offend me, but no. And if it's and maybe I could be offended if someone actually was racist towards Native Americans and actually meant it in the context of saying whatever slur word they want to use, um, die or whatever. Then sure, I would have a problem. But most people are people that I just know, and they may just say something, and I'm like, oh, that's funny, whatever. And that's the idea that people may have something to say over it. Um, I say Native American just because that's the I guess the popular name for it now. Technically, Native American is a broad term. It includes continental Native Americans, anybody in the United States. It includes any sort of like native tribes that would have been in Canada, um, Mexico as well. You think Aztec, Maya, Inca, or whatever. I know some of that was in South America, but whichever ones were in the Mexican region. It included Alaskan Inuits, and it includes Hawaiian natives as well. That's what Native American means. So when people say like, "Oh, you're an Indian," and then there are people who get offended, right? Who are like, "Oh my God, you said Indian. That's wrong." No, it's the only reason I don't use the word Indian is more out of just confusion. Oh, what kind of Indian are you? Are you the India Indian or are you American Indian? But the correct term for someone like me who has a Native American tribe in Washington, the correct term to be to more specific than Native American is American Indian. If you look at every application that you ever fill out, that ethnicity check, or you check if you're white, black, Hispanic, it says American Indian / Alaskan Inuit. So American Indian is actually the more correct term, and it's using the word in it. If you look at my tribe that I'm registered in, it says Upper Skagit Indian Tribe. We're calling ourselves that. So the only reason you shouldn't really be offended over it. It's not something to get offended over. It's more for confusion. That's why I use Native American. It's more for confusion. That's all. If someone called me an Indian, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's yeah. And while I'm on this topic, the Washington Redskins, it's not a big deal. People need to let it go. As a Native American, I have no problem with the term Redskin. It's not racist to me. It's no saying you're red. See, saying you're red is just it just sounds weird. So saying Redskin sounds better, in my opinion. But that's no different than saying you're black, you're white. No different. So to me, I look at it as more being proud to say that I'm a Redskin, so to speak. I don't take offense to it. People need to let it go. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the funny part is I have a big problem with people who aren't Native American, and they're the ones that are crying out for this. If they go to a rally, so let, let's look at this a little bit more closely here. So, these type of people would be, the very liberal, the super sensitive people, blah blah blah, and they want to protest these things, protest the Redskins, and they'll be out there, and there's not very many Native Americans out there, if any. You know where the Native Americans are protesting? The Dakota Pipeline, because that's going through their that, and you know what? And here's the other peaceful.